Hi everybody, it's Jaraan Onai, bringing you pointers for progress in your spiritual awakening, with a reminder that while knowledge may be power, understanding is mastery. Let's explore. Yeah, what I was prompted to share today is something that I've thought about many times over the last few years. And it's really what it boils down to is in being an exercise in discernment. But it also takes into account emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence and, our ability to really be mindful, really be present with what we're thinking and feeling. Because, it's the inside world is really where it's at. That's where all the action is, so to speak. It just doesn't look like it from the outside necessarily, at least not all the time. Part of my role as a spiritual awakening and transformation facilitator is to, point out these subtleties. And maybe that's just because that's what I'm into. Everybody's got their thing, and this apparently is mine. The thing I was thinking about is how, I've heard it quoted several times in recent months, facts don't care about your feelings. And the first time I heard that, I felt a little in my gut. It's like, yeah, but, feelings can be perceptions. And perceptions can be accurate. And so, but the thing is, there really is a difference, and the ET Masters talk about this quite a bit, a difference between our feelings and our emotions. And I think a lot of times it can be really easy to get confused between what's a feeling and what's an emotion. And, it can be really easy sometimes to get emotionally triggered by stuff, which is basically a reaction in our ego conditioning, because we're attached to a particular belief or a particular perspective. And one of the things that I thought about with respect to that comment, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, hell, a lot of the facts aren't facts. If you happen to be sitting in a chair right now, the fact is that chair is solid. And yet, if you were to look at it through a microscope, science even says that chair is more space than it is matter. So, not solid at all. And on top of that, the matter that's there is very active. It's moving, it's vibrating. So, not solid at all. And so, even the very concept of a fact also depends upon your perspective. And, when it comes to, our feelings or the things that we have feelings or emotions about, it can be really, really handy to pay attention to whether that is just an emotional response based on prior conditioning, or if it's a true intuitive perception or feeling, that comes from the soul or comes from the heart. And one of the easiest ways that I've used over the years to help me in discerning is if it's a negative emotion, a negative reaction of some kind, so-called, then it's probably based on my conditioning. And it's entirely possible that some aspect of my psyche has an attachment to that particular perspective for some reason. And, I can go into all the details about why that is, because it can get kind of involved. But at the moment, it's like, just want to encourage you to exercise discernment, practice discernment, practice self-awareness. It's like if somebody says or does something and I have a negative emotional reaction to that, from an ego standpoint, I may be perfectly convinced that whatever perspective I'm holding is accurate, when in fact it's only a very deeply conditioned and embedded belief. And, what makes that challenging sometimes is beliefs can be really embedded, because like when we're kids, we have all this stuff imposed on us. We're basically being programmed. And when you're a child, your mindset is such that it really is just absorbing information. It's not really filtering anything. Below a certain age, it's like there literally are no filters. You just absorb like a sponge. And so those things get accepted as true just because that's the evidence and that's what gets imposed at the time. And so then that establishes a belief, and then there's this term in psychology that I really like called confirmation bias. And what that basically means is we tend to look for things that confirm what we already believe. And it's an automatic mechanism apparently in the psyche, and that's what it does. But, our beliefs are such a tiny speck of what we consider to be reality in this dimension, and most of those aren't actually real. They're not really true. They're just imposed. And once they get imposed, then we start projecting this assumption based on that belief, and then we start anticipating experiences and looking for experiences that correspond with that belief to confirm it. And, part of the reason for that is apparently the ego would much rather be right than be happy. And so, our conditioning within the ego, these aspects of our personality, because we want to feel stable, we want to feel solid, we want to feel like we exist, these different identities within the psyche. And so, I know for sure that these aspects of the personality will absolutely defend themselves, in whatever perspectives or beliefs that they hold, just because they want to be right. But being right isn't necessarily being real. And, the point of spiritual awakening is to become more authentic, is to be more real. It's not to be popular, it's not to share things that mass consciousness or status quo reality agrees with necessarily. It's to be authentic. And given that, we're incarnated in this world of illusion, chances are good that if what we think, feel, believe corresponds to status quo reality, it's probably part of the illusion. And therefore not the most effective. Doesn't mean it doesn't have a purpose, and it's definitely not the whole story, and may not even be a part of the real story at all. So, that reminds me of actually one of my favorite quotes ever by J. Krishnamurti, which says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted in a profoundly sick society." And, I really, really appreciate that quote and the point that it's making. It's like, it's like the more we fit in, the less real we may be, the less healthy, certainly from a spiritual standpoint, we may be. So, it pays to pay attention. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're automatically wrong in your perspective, but to think about perspectives, it's just like the facets on a diamond. There are multiple facets, all of which look a little different, and all of which may have value in its context, but again, they're not the whole diamond. A facet's not the whole diamond. And so, it pays to broaden our thinking, and it pays to expand our perspectives, and to be able to look at every situation we experience, especially if it provokes some sort of emotional distress, discomfort, objection. It pays to look at those things from multiple perspectives, because, on the one hand, being accurate is important. Being right according to status quo reality, maybe not so much, but then, accuracy really I mean, to be truly accurate requires a broader perspective. Because, I mean, if you look at history, you can see where, like, well, once upon a time, people thought the planet was flat. And that's probably how it looked to them. But not how it is. It's like it takes proving these things for ourselves, exploring, examining, and I don't really care if the planet is round or flat. It's all an illusion anyway. It doesn't even exist. The masters say that Earth as an entity doesn't even exist beyond the seventh dimension. And so it's like, is it really that important? No, it's just a theater through which we express in order to evolve. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter. What does matter is that our inward state of being can be more or less aligned with our divine reality, our spiritual source, our soul. And the more aligned it is, the more at peace we are, the more in joy we are, the more creative we become, and the more capable of expressing, the love, the joy that is innate to our soul level reality, our oneness level reality. And, if we're light workers in this world and we're endeavoring to assist in human evolution, then the more authentic we become, the more effective we become. And that's the point. If you're going to be effective, you have to be authentic. And the beautiful thing about that is the more in touch with the divine reality we become, the less effort is required. Because as the masters have also said over the years, reality requires no maintenance. And that's true. It's like the illusion requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of maintenance. Reality requires none. It just is. And I can't think of a more peaceful, less stressful reality to be in than one of reality where, it's like not work at all. It's just experience. Experiencing the different facets of love that exist, experiencing the different facets of joy and peace that exist, and here in this dimension, being able to experience peace in any and every situation is a worthy goal. Being able to experience joy in any situation is a worthy goal. Being able to see love in action in any situation is a worthy goal. And it's possible to do that. Maybe way more possible than we initially suspect. So, anyway, getting back to the whole discernment thing, it's absolutely worth taking a moment to, if something provokes an emotional reaction, take a few deep breaths, slow, deep breaths, relax, and be willing to see things from a different perspective. It doesn't mean you have to abandon your perspective, but just set it aside for a minute, for an hour, or at least long enough to explore other perspectives and potentially see the validity of those other perspectives, some of which may be far more beneficial to embrace than whatever the ego conditioning says. So, anyway, that's just my thoughts. If you've explored in this realm of human development and you have insights, realizations, discoveries that you'd like to share in the comments, I would absolutely love to read those. It's an amazing journey, and it can be extraordinarily beautiful and uplifting when it's approached from the right perspective and embraced from the right perspective. So, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're at a place in your path where, you're ready for a more grace and ease approach to evolution, hop on over to joyceawakening.com and take a look at what we have over there. There's a lot of support for those of us who want to really embody the presence of divine love and who want to understand how consciousness really works and who want to be at peace, regardless of conditions. It's one of our main superpowers, I think, as light workers and awakening souls, however you might characterize yourself, is to be able to be at peace regardless of conditions. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and we'll catch you next time.